guys, and welcome to the Fish Room. I'm Rachel O'Leary, and it's time for a Tuesday tip. Now, if you watched last week's videos, you know my 40th birthday is coming up, and I have decided for my 40th birthday to set up a new aquarium. Shocker, right? And if you've been around my channel for a while, you'll know that one of the things that really interests me is the conservation of fish, ethical breeding, and ethical importation of fish. And I've decided to focus my birthday tank on an area where fish are critically threatened. That's in Lake Tanganyika. Now, Lake Tanganyika is an East African rift lake. It's over 420 miles wide, 4 miles deep, about 3 miles of which is like mud and sand and shells. And it has really incredible rock formations. And it basically looks like a freshwater reef. The fish are extremely comfortable. There's over 100 species of cichlids found in that area. And they have all different sorts of breeding strategies as well as behaviors, and they're really fascinating. The problem is that 60% of the protein diet in the local natives' diet is basically fish. So a lot of these fish are critically threatened because of overfishing from people trying to survive. They're supposed to fish 2 kilometers off of the shore, which is policed, but it's more successful in some places than others. And some fish are critically threatened, ones that we know very well in the aquarium hobby, simply from overfishing for the ornamental trade. So I wanted to focus on some of these various species in an aquarium just to show you guys how beautiful they are and to give me the opportunity to talk about ethical collection, what we can do as a hobbyist, what's being done by hobbyists, and just show you some really awesome fish. Now, the thing with cichlids is the vast majority of them are very breedable, so there's absolutely no reason we need wild-caught fish from this region. There's a bunch of different breeding strategies that we use. Some of the various types of fish that are found in the area are deep water fish, things like frontosa, which a lot of you are probably familiar with, the algae grazing species like Tropheus, the rock-dwelling species like Neolamprologus or Julidochromis, the shell dwellers, things like that. And then there's the open water species, which are like my blue guys in my Shelly tank, the Cyprichromis. So there's this huge variety of really beautiful fish, and I thought it would be a really unique challenge to create a tank to showcase some of them. Now, there is a national organization called the American Cichlid Association, and one of the funds that they have is called the Stuart M. Grant Conservation Fund. And what this fund does is it puts money back into the region. They've put in anti-netting devices, which were successful. They supply money to the local police officials for their boats and things like that. And most recently, they've been working on breeding fish in order to reestablish native populations in the lake, which I think is really cool. Now, they've had mixed results for various reasons, but it's something that they're working really hard on. I've done fundraisers in the past in order to contribute to them and was a part of an organization called the Babes in the Cichlid Hobby, whose main goal was to raise money to donate to this cause. In fact, one of my good friends, Pam Chin, has allowed me to use some of her underwater footage from the area, which I really relied on heavily for the inspiration for my aquarium. I will link to Pam's channel below, and if you guys are at all interested in seeing a lot of these fish in their native habitat, looking for inspiration on how to set up your aquarium, or you just want to see some really cool fish, check Pam's channel out. I'll also put a link to the American Cichlid Association as well as the Stuart M. Grant Conservation Fund below. But now on to the fun part. Let's take a look at what I've compiled. I'm going to keep the fish a secret until I'm sure I can get them, and get started on this tank setup. So this is the 75-gallon aquarium that I cleaned up. This was the guppy grass tank, so I took the guppy grass and moved it into something like 20 other aquariums in the fish room. Scrubbed and scraped down this aquarium inside and out with a razor blade, removed all the substrate, cleaned the filters, and then put in some egg crate on the right hand side. An egg crate is just light diffuser. It's easy to cut with something as simple as wire cutters, and I do that because I plan on using some pretty big heavy rocks in this aquarium, and I want to prevent any pressure points on the bottom glass, as well as risk of the tank cracking should a rock tumble at any point. Now, most of the rock work is going to be on this right hand side, which is why I placed the egg crate there. I just had this egg crate laying around. I didn't go out and buy it. I do plan on adding a power head potentially to this filter, and the goal is to have this side of the aquarium be heavy rock work, some shells, and then sand on this side in order to stock it with my secret birthday fish. Now, I'll reveal to you guys what those are as soon as I make sure that I can get them, but in the meantime I thought I'd get started on setting up a rockscape for this aquarium. Now, I brought down to the basement a whole bunch of different rocks. These are all rocks that I collected locally, and I have some really big ones like this one that I particularly like. This is the same rock that I used in my 150-gallon Hillstream aquarium, and while it's nothing fancy, I really like it. I also brought down some Black Hills stone, which is this stuff, as well as a bunch of really inexpensive natural slate that I can use to build some height in areas that I need it. Now, hopefully all of this slate stuff will be covered up by more attractive rocks, and then we'll add substrate later in order to get the look that I'm hoping to achieve with this aquarium. So I'm going to get to work, and I'll stop periodically to show you guys progress and to get some footage. So right now I just have some boulders in place. I'm waiting on a shipment on my substrate and a ton of shells and other decor to put in here, and the goal is to have an open water section and then this section of aquarium that has a lot of crevices and shells and hiding places in order for the fish that I'm choosing to have a pretty natural interaction with the decor. And I also want it to be attractive for me to look at, so that's why I went with this large, or these large river stones. I think that there's some interesting tension between the various rocks, lots of nooks and crannies, and a very natural feel to this arrangement. So this is how I have the rocks arranged currently. This is a mix of that local river rock that I collect as well as raw slate. I've also added some of the typical escargot shells that I've used in other aquariums in the past. Now, for substrate, I've gone with Carib Sea Supernatural's Ivory Coast Sand. And this is a mix of crushed shells, crushed coral, and the like, and this will help my water be ideal for the fish that I'm going to choose. You see, the Rift Lake has very hard water, so I need to bolster my relatively neutral water in order for the fish to thrive. The goal was to create these big boulder-like environments, as well as lots of nooks and crannies and shelves for the fish to hide, as well as set up territories, because, let's face it, cichlids need to establish territories. Now, I think I'm going to have to go collect more rocks because I want more, but for the species I'm focusing on, which I'll tell you at a later date once I actually get my grubby paws on them, this setup should do just fine, and that actually is more important for it to look aesthetically pleasing and have enough shells than anything else. Now, these are shells that I got from Amazon. Those are escargot shells, but I also did an order from a company called Naples Seashell Company that's in Tennessee, and I got whale eye shells and turbo shells, and I will show you those in a second. I have my bag of shells here. Now, I don't generally bother with boiling the shells or cleaning the shells. I may give them a good rinse. You can see they're really quite pretty. These are just natural shells. I went with a range of shells that have openings from about 1 inch to 2 inches because the fish that are going to use these are relatively small. You guys know I love my shellies. So I'm sure it's no surprise that I went with more for this aquarium, though I'm going to keep the species reveal for a later date. So all I do with these is hold them under the water to let the trapped air out and then drop them into the aquarium. Now, I chose shells that the fish can't get trapped in, and that can be an issue with some of the conch-shaped shells. And I also wanted ones that would complement the color of my rocks and sand because I want this tank to be attractive. I'm going to go ahead and open all these and then we'll take a closer look. So this is the completed aquarium for now. It's entirely possible I'll go in and add more rock work. In fact, I added another piece of slate right here. But the goal for this aquarium is to provide all these different nooks and crannies, ledges and shelves for fish to hide in, as well as all these shells for one of the species that'll be going in this aquarium to breed in. And what these really giant rocks do is break up the line of sight and allow for plenty of territories to be established. Now I am going to have some open water species in this aquarium as well, I hope. So I have left a big area over here relatively open, as well as that top third of the aquarium, so that we can get some really natural behavior. Sometimes the shell-dwelling species can be a bit shy and reclusive, and including fish that swim in that upper water column or in the open area really makes them more outgoing, as they have less fear of predators. So I'm pretty excited to get some fish. I have an email out to a supplier, and I'll feature that as well at a later date. And hopefully we can get this all assembled and done by the time my birthday rolls around here in a couple of weeks. I do think this is a good start and a neat concept for an aquarium, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy seeing some of just a few species of the massive biodiversity of Lake Tanganyika. Make sure you go show my friend Pam some love, and thank you so much, Pam, for providing me with some of the underwater footage as well as the species information. As always, thank you guys for your support. Make sure you stop by my Instagram so you don't miss any behind the scenes looks at any of the tank builds I have in progress. And as always, let me know below if you have any comments, or suggestions, or questions.